Hello everyone, glad to be back. Today is 4th of October, now it's 10:30 in the morning Moscow time. I'm Levan Gudadze and this is my first update for the day in which I will share all the main news that are making headlines in Russian media outlets and Russian language pages on different internet platforms. There are quite a few very significant developments and news that I like to share with you for this moment, and I will start with short summary of the situation on Ukrainian battlefield. According to reports from Russian media or Russian sources, there were no significant changes on any of the sectors of the front line. It's usual stuff, artillery duels between the sides, local scale reconnaissance force operations and drone wars. Nothing in the scale that will influence overall situation on any of the sectors. I will just add that this morning, according to reports from Russian media, this morning Ukrainian side did try to conduct some small amphibious operation in direction of Crimea, to be more exact, in direction of this Cape Tarkhan Kut, and Russian Defense Ministry is reporting that Russian side was monitoring movement of Ukrainian forces, and at some point Russian Air Force did strike this small group of Ukrainian forces that were moving towards Crimea on one speedboat and three scooters. And as a result of these strikes, this Ukrainian amphibious force was repelled. They were forced basically to return to their base, although I'm not quite sure if all of them make it to the coastline of Odessa region, from which Ukrainian forces usually are conducting such media operations, because that's all Kiev regime has left now, to conduct some operations that can be used as a propaganda instrument, and that's it really. Overall, it seems like operational pause is holding on all the sectors of the front line, and probably it will stay this way until winter, when Russian side will begin making its decisive moves, large-scale offensive operations, not just in central and northern sectors of the front line, but quite possibly on the southern sectors of the front line, also in Kherson, Zaporozhye and South Donetsk areas. And this is it for a short summary. There are plenty of other news that I want to share with you. And before I continue, let me remind you, if I may, that this project, with several channels, including this one on YouTube, Rumble, and Telegram, exists solely thanks to support of members of our community, and I will be immensely grateful if you will also consider to support my work with small donations through PayPal, Buy Me Coffee, or by subscribing to my Patreon page. You will see links under this video in description box or in the pinned comment. That's being said, let's continue with some additional news. And TASS news agency is reporting exactly about this failed attempt from Ukrainian side to conduct landing operation towards Cape Tarkhan Kut. This type of small provocations or media operations will probably take place on regular basis in the future also, because nothing else Kiev regime really can showcase, because they have no success on any of the sectors of the front line, and they are quite desperate at this point, Zelensky and his associates, because as a result of defeat on the battlefields, more and more questions have been asked by Western masters of Kiev regime, and we can see clearly that lately more and more states are beginning to, step by step distance themselves from Kiev regime, and we all already have reports that financial flow and weapons flow towards Ukraine will decrease significantly, although will not stop entirely, at least for some time. Kiev regime will receive some money and weapons several more months probably. But trend is obvious. Western so-called elites began distancing themselves from Kyiv regime. But let's continue. RIA Novosti is reporting that Defense Minister of Russian Federation held a meeting with the high-ranking officers of Russian Defense Ministry and General Staff. And during this meeting, he said that Russian General Staff has no intention or plans to conduct a second wave of partial mobilization in Russia, and there is no such a need. One may take statements of Shoigu from critical standpoint, but yet again, if we take in account that since the beginning of this year, more than 325,000 citizens of Russia signed contract with armed forces and are participating in special military operations, then it's becoming obvious that at this exact moment, Russian Defense Ministry probably don't have any reason to conduct mobilization, because there is enough volunteers that are joining army on contract basis, and things may change only once Russian side will begin this decisive large-scale offensive operations. For that time, we may see partial mobilization, second wave of partial mobilization, not because the Russian army will have some need in stormtroopers or forces on the front line. No, but as more and more territory will be liberated from Kyiv regime, of course, Russian armed forces will have a need to secure rear and to conduct this basically military policing of the newly liberated territories. These mobilized reservists can be quite effective, although it's quite possible that Russian Defense Ministry, even at that point, will have no need for additional personnel. But anything is possible. I would not exclude entirely possibility of mobilization, but at this point it's obvious that Defense Ministry definitely don't need additional 300 or 500 personnel right now. But let's continue. TASS news agency is reporting that Antony Blinken, head of State Department, made a statement that Joe Biden, president of US, at least formal president of US, don't want to end up in direct confrontation with Russia. He don't want to see direct clashes between US and Russian Federation, and therefore White House is taking cautious steps and acting quite cautiously. I mean, unbelievable, but that's what they think, that they are acting cautiously, man. But anyway, it's quite understandable that every adequate human being on this planet will probably will not want to see direct confrontation between Russia and US, because it will destroy not just these two countries, but also entire world. Taking into account how many nuclear weapons Russia and US has. So understandable, at some sense understandable statement, but in other hand, we have this kind of information. For example, that Pentagon, according to TASS news agency, Pentagon did make an official statement that they are ready to deliver ATACMS long-range missiles to Kyiv regime once Biden will greenlight such deliveries. And well, how are you gonna say that Biden administration is acting cautious and don't want to provoke direct confrontation when long-range missiles probably already have been delivered to Kyiv regime, and its only announcement is left? But you know, lately it's becoming too obvious that this Western so-called elites are in some kind of trap of their own propaganda, their own previous propaganda, and nowadays, even if they want to make some adequate statement, they cannot. They are just hostages of their own stupid and crazy propaganda, and that's why they are losing credibility, or already lost credibility worldwide. No one can take them seriously. But when it comes to, yes, ATACMS missiles, I'm quite sure, not just these missiles from US, but also I think it's highly likely that Taurus long-range cruise missiles, German-made cruise missiles, also already have been delivered to Kyiv regime, and in next several days, probably we will see announcements about it. And as we did notice it previously many times, whenever announcement is made by the so-called leaders of the Western world about deliveries of certain types of weapons, those weapons usually already are in Ukraine. And that's why I think ATACMS and Taurus missiles already have been delivered to Zelensky and his criminal associates. But TASS news agency also reporting that based on article in Wall Street Journal, that Ukraine without US financial support would not be able to pay salaries to not just officials but also to employees of budgetary organizations, which is true, by the way, which is absolutely true. Right now, majority of salaries in Ukraine have been paid by taxpayers of US and taxpayers of EU member states. That's a reality that may be surprising for majority of citizens of the Western states if they will learn about it, that they are paying for wages of not just Zelensky but also to everyone, almost everyone in Ukraine that are working in state institutions or in budgetary organizations. But yet again, if majority of Western states will try to looking for alternative sources of information on internet, oh, they will knew about this long time now, and they will definitely would not be surprised. But that's a reality. That's reality. And RT is reporting, of course, you all of you at this point are familiar with this information. I will just mention it because it's quite interesting that U.S. House Speaker was ousted yesterday. Kevin McCarthy has become first speaker in the institution's 234-year history to voted out of office by his peers. Quite interesting development. It will not change or influence anything in global scale, of course, but historical moment, one may say. 216 MPs voted to oust this individual and 210 voted against. And from now on, House of Representatives would not be able to do anything really other than constantly vote until they will choose some new speaker. So, you know, US is awaiting some clown show from Washington for next several days. But yet again, when it comes to policies of Washington, or foreign policies, or steps that Washington is making, of course, this development will have no influence whatsoever. Because decision makers, real decision makers in US are not in the White House or Senate or Congress. Real decision makers are in some other places. They are just giving orders to these puppets there. Anyway, let's continue. And my understanding is that vast majority in White House, including Biden, and vast majority of MPs in US Congress and the Senate are puppets of true rulers of the US, heads of these giant corporations, financial, industrial, and so on corporations that are basically operating with funds that hard to, you know, and buying up bunch of those so-called politicians. But let's continue. TASS news agency is reporting that Armenian parliament, by the way, voted for ratification of Rim Statute, and after that, ICC, International Criminal Court, will operate basically in Armenia also, and decisions of ICC will be order for Armenia, let's say. And well, it's obvious that Moscow didn't react kindly on such a development, of course, even though some Armenian officials come out with statements that this decision of Armenian parliament to ratify this Rim Statute and become part of or include Armenia in jurisdiction of ICC is not a step against Moscow, but at this point Moscow don't really cares, I guess, because everyone is fed up with Pashinyan and his government, and that's why official spokesperson of Russian President Dmitry Peskov did made a quite non-aggressive, let's say, statement when he was commenting this development in Armenia. And he said that Moscow thinks decision of Armenian MPs is a mistake, incorrect decision, and it will of course generate some additional questions in Moscow towards Pashinyan and his government. Quite diplomatic words, sentences without any aggression, because, as I said, everyone at this point understands perfectly well that it's only a matter of time when Pashinyan's government will withdraw Armenia from ODKB. That's a defense organization of several former Soviet republics. CIST, that's English name, if I'm not mistaken. And it's only a matter of time when Pashinyan and his government will withdraw Armenia from Eurasian Economical Union. And of course, it's only a matter of time when Yerevan, under leadership of Pashinyan, will demand withdrawal of Russian military base and Russian militaries from Armenia. Moscow knows this. Well, Russian side does understand perfectly well that Armenia is going into this downfall spiral, which will probably continue for a decade or so, maybe more, before Armenian society will finally realize that they basically single-handedly destroyed their future and their country with their mistaken choices. But yet again, all choices do have consequences, and if Armenian society voted for such a people like Pashinyan and his government, if they want such a leaders, then well, they probably are ready for consequences, or supposed to be, you know. It's sad to see this downfall of Armenia, but yet again, that's choice that Armenian citizens made. And by the way, you can compare situation of Armenia before Pashinyan's government and situation of Armenia now. It's like two different worlds. It's like two different worlds. But that's what happens with the states that are choosing to become colony of the Western so-called elites. That's the inevitable process. Anyway, let's continue. TASS news agency is reporting that Moldova's Minister of Energy, Viktor Parlikov, did come out with a statement that Moldova is ready to continue buying Russian gas if price is convenient for Moldova. And well, once again, dear friends, demonstration what is happening with states when they choose to become a colony of the Western so-called elites. Moldova is one more failed state on the map of former Soviet Union, which is run right now by puppets of Washington. And you can clearly see results. High-ranking officials of Moldova several days now are making statements that are contradicting each other. Like 3 days ago, some officials say, including this one, if I'm not mistaken, did say that they are no longer buying Russian gas, and they did find some alternative sources. And that was quite surprising, some alternative sources with cheaper prices. And I was surprised when I read that information, because I mean, on this region, in this region, Russia has cheapest gas. And when Moldova would find the gas on cheaper prices, how? And well, next day Gazprom will come up with a statement, Russian Gas Corporation, Energy Corporation, and they said that Moldova is continuing to purchase gas as usual, and Gazprom is delivering gas on daily basis without any changes. And after that statement, this individual is coming from Moldova, Moldova's government is coming out and stating that, well, they are ready to continue buying Russian gas if price is convenient. Well, whatever price Gazprom will put up, that's the best price they can get. That's a reality. That's the best price they can get. And there is no cheaper gas anywhere else. But maybe these idiots, these cretins in Moldova's government, you know, need some time to learn how much is 2 plus 2 or 3 plus 2 or something like that. Once they will learn some basic mathematics, then they may understand something a little bit more. But at this point, it seems like leadership of Moldova finally lost contact with reality. If they were thinking that they're gonna buy gas from Europe with some discounts and cheaper than Russian gas, they are, I mean, even more stupid that I was thinking about them. And if they think Turkey gonna supply gas to Moldova somehow cheaper than Russian gas is, they are even more idiots. Because Turkey buys gas from Russia to resell it, or to re-export that gas, or Turkey receives Russian payments for transit of gas that is still Russian. Unbelievable, man. But let's continue. Let's continue. When it comes to Moldova, it's, in my understanding, by the way, it's only a matter of time when this state will also collapse completely, and not just Transnistria, which is let me show Moldova, by the way. This is Moldova here. This is Transnistria, and well, I guess it's only a matter of time when Moldova will collapse and Transnistria join Russian Federation, and also Gagauzia, by the way. Also Gagauzia, maybe some other parts of Moldova also. And the rest of the Moldova will become part of Romania, as it was before Second World War. Many may forget about it, but Moldova used to be part of vast majority of territory of modern Moldova, used to be part of Romania. And this republic was created after by Stalin, basically. Let's continue now, and RT is reporting that Russian gas production forecast is to soar. So country aims to boost annual LNG output levels to at least 100 million tons by 2030, and by 2024. According to forecast, Russian LNG exports will reach 47.3 million tons, which is not bad, really not bad. But what is interesting in this news is that, of course, number one buyer of Russian LNG is China. But you guess which countries are second and third and so on. Of course, European states. Of course, European states. And once again, clear demonstration how significantly states are deteriorating once some degenerates are put in power by true rulers of the Western world. And this information demonstrated it also perfectly well, because the so-called leaders of EU member states impose sanctions on Russian pipeline gas, which is significantly cheaper than LNG. And same time, these same states, maybe not all of them, but significant number of very same EU's member states are beginning to not just buy Russian LNG, but to increase purchase of Russian LNG in significantly. And they are now paying almost twice more than used to pay. And can you imagine how crazy is that, and how much damage have been done to economies of EU member states by this kind of crazy, absolutely crazy actions of these so-called elites in the West. And by the way, major buyers of Russian LNG are France, for example, and Spain. Spain is a second buyer of Russian LNG worldwide, after China. And France is third or somewhere there. France is also buyer of Russian LNG. And Denmark, for that matter. And Germany, by the way. So it is what it is, man. I mean, this is really a situation truly are out of control, because we are seeing steps have been made by these so-called Western elites that are, I don't know, hard to comment seriously no more. Because, I mean, only question I have personally is that how long societies in the Western states gonna tolerate this madness? That's it. How long people in the West gonna tolerate this craziness of their own so-called elites? I don't know. RT is reporting that Japanese car industry is losing billions over Russian export ban, and in this particular case, RT is reporting about already used vehicles, not just new, but already used vehicles. And Japan's decision to include used vehicles in its ban on car exports to Russia will cost the country nearly $2 billion. Reuters reports on Monday. This is Reuters reports, by the way, so no one can say that this is pro-Russian propaganda. I mean, Reuters is a tool of Western so-called elites, isn't it? And this is just on used cars. Can you imagine how many billions Japan is losing on the new cars? And what they gonna do with these cars? In this region, by the way, they had a market in Russia, significant market, and that's it. Because South Korea, on its own, is a giant car manufacturing state. China, even bigger car manufacturing state. So what they gonna do with these unsold cars? Hundreds of thousands of unsold cars. They're gonna decrease production, and when they will decrease production, they will lay off workers. And yet again, choices and consequences. Japanese society, including workers of car manufacturing industry, did voted for such leaders, and they have it. They have to cope with consequences now. That's it. TASS news agency is reporting, by the way, that Russian company Kama, car manufacturing company, did made the announcement that they already received some 36,000 pre-orders for atom electric car, which will undergo on mass production in fairly short time, which is well quite a number really. This is how this car looks like. This atom, it's okay. I mean, I'm not big fan of these electric cars ideas, because I think, and I'm not really buying this green ideology, to be honest, because in my understanding, electric cars are much more toxic because of the batteries than ordinary cars. Because one day those batteries have to be recycled, isn't it? And how? Those batteries gonna end up in the dump yard somewhere. They're gonna poison ground, they're gonna burn, so they're gonna poison atmosphere. So I'm not at all buying in this whole propaganda of electric cars and how clean and green they are. No. But this is worldwide trend, and well, Russia is not exception, and we can clearly see that competition is beginning for Russian market, and some Russian companies want to have some share on in this segment also. But let's continue. TASS news agency is reporting that, well, yet again, news about cars, that the biggest or giant Russian automaker AvtoVAZ increased its sales in September by almost twice, by 180%, by the way, which is quite a number. Some 36.2 thousand cars were sold in September, and well, this is good news. This is good news. It benefits Russian economy, Russian workers. So good news. And AvtoVAZ, by the way, lately definitely are, or it seems like that are on the path to produce some okay cars, in budget segment. And if they will continue development, successful development in this way, at some point in the future, in 5, 7, 10 years time, AvtoVAZ may end up being in a place when they can even compete with South Korean car manufacturers, who knows, and Chinese car manufacturers, or European car manufacturers. Some of them, I'm not talking about Mercedes and BMW, but AvtoVAZ do have a perspective to compete at least with Skoda or Renault or with Volkswagen. But yeah, let's see. It's 5-10 years only, and I think AvtoVAZ will become a significant player on the world market, not just in Russia. In Russia, AvtoVAZ is #1 car maker. And this is also quite interesting news, by the way. A little information about scientific stuff. Russia Russia basically invited South Africa, Brazil, and Turkey to participate in Russian space program to build a space station, new space station. Quite interesting proposal from Moscow, and I guess all 3 countries will take it, because it will give them opportunity to develop their own space programs, and on permanent basis, because if they have reached to space station, then they can permanently have a astronaut in the space, or cosmonaut. And of course, this is a transfer of technologies and knowledge between the countries, so it will benefit, of course, all 4 countries: Russia, South Africa, Turkey, and Brazil. Quite interesting news in my understanding. And also, by the way, RIA Novosti is reporting about Nobel Prize in Physics. And even though lately I don't really have that much respect for Nobel, this organization, because they definitely make decisions based on some ideological stuff and politics. But in this case, let me just share you pure information about who was awarded with prize, and for what. So Nobel Prize in Physics for 2023 will be awarded to Pierre Agostini, Ferenc Krauss, and Annie L. Haulier for the creation of methods that makes it possible to study behavior of electrons in the matter, ordinary matter, with record accuracy. The Nobel Committee of the Royal Swedish Academy of Science announced. Well, congratulations to these scientists. I hope they did receive this prize for real work, not because they are woke or some kind of crazy people, but because of their the scientific discoveries and scientific work. That is, you know. And well, this attitude also demonstrates, by the way, fail of reputation of Nobel Committee, because everyone, I guess, or majority in this world will have same questions. Did these scientists or did these people or that people receive this prize for their true work, or just because they are close to some ideologies that are promoted by globalists and other criminals that are running and ruining Western world? But it is what it is, man. This is it for now. Quite a short update, which is good, and I hope you will find this video and news interesting. And if so, please click that like button and leave some commentary about any topic you like. Supposedly more likes and comments will help to reach wider audience. And by the way, some members of our community did write in comment sections that if you are active on in comment sections, or if you are liking videos, then there are more chances that you will receive notification. I don't know much about work of algorithm of YouTube. Maybe it is the case, I don't know, but I will ask you to, if I may, to share links to my videos or my channel with your friends, for very same reason, just to have this opportunity to reach wider audience. And if you think this channel is interesting, useful, has some potential and deserves to exist, please consider to support with small donations through PayPal, buy me a coffee, or by subscribing to my Patreon page, in which, by the way, I do try to upload some extra content on regular basis. You can see links under this video in description box or in the pinned comment. And well, this is it for now. Have a great day and take care.